G'day guys, it's Wolffy here, and this week I decided to have a crack at the Daily Race C after a couple of disastrous weeks on Gran Turismo for the last 2 weeks, and the Manufacturers Cup. I just had an absolute shocker. I was losing SR points, losing DR points, crashing out, and it was just getting frustrating. So I'd been doing more racing on ACC than I had on Gran Turismo. However, this week I discovered that Bathurst was up in the GR3s, so that's a combo that I knew I'd enjoy. So I thought I'd give it a go. After a couple of qualifying laps, I decided to use the GTR 2013 and managed to start from pole. Just a 2 minute and 2 second qualifying time, so I've gone down to B rating. So I'm in lobbies with people that have a B rating or a C rating. So I managed to start from the start. Now, as you can see there, this guy, I braked a little bit early, and this guy tried to dive on the inside. I don't know if it was, it was my fault for braking so early, but there was no harm, no foul, and thankfully it didn't cause an accident. But what did cause an accident, as you can see in the rear vision mirror, is the guy next to him. And so that just sent 3 cars into the wall. And yeah, I think they all fell back, and the guys that were in 4th and 5th have now come up into 2nd and 3rd. So that was an interesting start to the race, but it worked for me. So I managed to get myself a few seconds lead, and I was really going to try and stretch that out once I'd done a lap and warmed up the tyres and just gotten myself into a groove, because I started out on the mediums being at the front, so I really wanted to try and stretch that lead if I could. Now, coming through Forest Elbow and down Conrod Straight, I've got 2 and a bit seconds lead, and 3 and a bit seconds lead. So I felt sort of comfortable that most of the other drivers have probably started on hards, so I knew I was just going to have to get into a groove and try and push ahead, build myself up a bit of a buffer, and then hopefully once I got onto the hards I'd have enough of a buffer to still be ahead. Now by the 4th lap, I don't have as much of a buffer as I'd like. I'm still around the 3.5 second mark, but I'm pretty sure there's a couple of drivers behind me who are also on the mediums, and they're the ones keeping pace with me. But I have managed to keep them out of the 1 second window, so they're not managing to get any tow from me. Now at this point I do see that there's a couple of drivers, 4th and 5th and 6th, which were on the hards. So they're obviously going to do a 4 and 6 split. So I'm just going to try and stretch this lead out as much as I can. Now in lap 6 I do see that number 4 and 5 are on the mediums, and so they're going to switch over onto their hards. So they're obviously doing a 5-5 split. Now I decided to do a 6-4 split, 6 medium and 4 hard, but as you can see it gets a little bit wobbly right around now, and the rear tyres, although only about halfway worn, are a little bit skittish, especially in the GTR. It's just got so much torque on those rear wheels, so I have to kind of take it easy down through the S's and into Forest Elbow. Into lap 6, I'm going to pit ever so gingerly. And I'm going to put on my hards. Now I noticed that it says I've got a 16-second lead. So I figure the guy behind me is not too far away. So he's obviously not been doing too bad. So I'm listening out for engine noise and seeing if anyone passes. And just as I come in to change my tyres, I hear someone go past me. This confused me a little bit because I wasn't exactly sure where he came from, and I wasn't sure which car it was. So I'll find out soon that it's actually the Lancer Evolution Final. Now, at this point I think, wow, he's just done some monster laps and caught right up to me. Now, it wasn't until lap 8 that I finally got a decent look at him and started pressing to try and catch him. So his pace fell off a little bit, and this was kind of gave me a bit of an inkling as to what was going on. So I'd press up the hill, and just as he came into view, I'm heading across Skyline. Not giving it too much, but just enough to get up behind him so that I'm within tow range down Conrod Straight. And as we come through the S's, he brakes a little bit early, and I get a good look at him for the first time. So I figure I'm going to be battling this guy until the end of the race, and I'm just going to have to take my chances. I don't get the best exit out of Forest Elbow there, but I'm just outside of 1 second, and with the power of the GTR, it's not long before I'm close to a second, and I know I'm going to be able to get some slipstream. So also I try and just brake as late as possible here and get right up behind him, and I figure this is my chance. I need to get ahead of him now, because he's going to be faster across the top of the mountain. But then he puts on his blinkers and he pits. So obviously this guy's done 8 laps, and as you can see there, it's on mediums. So yeah, that's crazy. 8 laps on mediums around Bathurst. So coming into the end of lap 9, start of lap 10, as you can see, I've built myself, I don't think it impacted him too much, a bit of a lead. And I've got about a 20-second lead. You've always got to remember to make sure that you don't... 2:05 was my best, so I was obviously not pushing too hard. But yeah, we'll take that one. We'll definitely take that one. That'll help me get my SR back up, because yeah, I lost some SR and DR points. I've really struggled to get out of the Bs actually lately. Just incidents after incidents, so thankfully this week's a slightly better race, so I'm happy with that. So hopefully this week's not just going to be dominated by the GTR 2013s, and we'll get a nice mix. Yeah, I like this combo, so fair play there to PD. We'll have more of these races. Thank you very much. Alrighty, now it's just a matter of trying to get my qualifying time down and get into a higher split. Alright guys, thanks for cheering me on, and until next time, take care guys. Bye. So coming up the mountain straight at the start of lap 6, as you can see, I've managed to stretch that lead out to 16 seconds while everyone was pitting, but I'm still yet to do my pit. And the tyres, while they're not super worn, they start to get a little bit wobbly, as you can see there. So I was starting to lose grip, and the GTR is notoriously bad for oversteer, especially when you've got lacking grip on the rear tyres. So I was just going to take it easy here and really roll through the S's and roll through Forest Elbow and just try and get to that straight as quick as possible and through the chicane and get that set of racing hard tyres on. So end of lap 6 and I come into the pits very gingerly, but I knew I had a little bit of time up my sleeve. Now I put my hards on, obviously didn't put any fuel in, and I was just listening for engine sounds to see if anyone was going to go past me because while it says that I have about 14 seconds, it wasn't long before I heard someone go past. So I was a little bit surprised by that. Now, the guy up ahead is in the Lancer Evo final. And this left me a little bit baffled because I wasn't sure if I couldn't remember seeing what tyres he'd put on or if he'd put on tyres at all. So I was a little bit confused. I thought, has he undercut me or has he just gone reverse strategy and managed to pull a couple of really quick laps out of nowhere? So I wasn't entirely sure, but I thought at this stage there was a chance that I was going to give up my P1 to this guy in front of me. So I started to step on it a little bit more here because I really wanted that P1 back. I didn't want to lose P1 in the pits when I'd managed to stretch out such a lead. So over the next lap, once I got onto the straight and I knew I could stretch my legs a little bit, I figured I was just going to put in a lap and really concentrate and push. So coming up Mountain Straight at the start of lap 8, the guy's finally within view and I'm only 2 and a bit seconds behind him. So I'll start pushing at this stage and try and safely get up behind him, at least to get close enough to have a crack down Conrod Straight. So across Skyline, I was letting off a little bit, but I was staying on it sort of as hard as I could without pushing too hard. Thankfully, he took the S's pretty slow here, and that allowed me to get up behind him. And then coming into Forest Elbow, I was pretty much within a close enough distance to take him. So I didn't get the best exit out of Forest Elbow, but I knew that I had the pace on him with the GTR. So it wasn't long before that lead came down to a second. And I had to just basically rely on my braking strategy through this chicane. So I thought, I've got him here. It's going to be an interesting battle for the race. And then I see his blinkers go on. So I'm guessing he stayed out for 8 laps on the mediums. There you go. He stayed out for 8 laps on the mediums. It had me confused. Because if he was on the hards, I couldn't see why you'd stay on him so long and only give yourself 2 laps on the mediums. And I honestly didn't think he'd get 8 laps out of a set of mediums. But there you go. So apparently the Lancer Evo final is pretty good on the tyres. So as I come around the corner to start my final lap, I've got a half decent lead, and you can hear my commentary in the background there. And someone goes off there, not sure who, but at this stage I knew I had the race. I just sorry about that. That was just my commentary in game.